Welcome again, everybody, to another edition of First Person, sponsored again by the Ruin Camp Farm Drainage Company in Fort Loramie. 81 years of experience with farm, residential, and commercial. If you got wet fields, you got wet grounds, they can make water work for you. Call Phil Barhorse at Ruin Camps. This week we have the distinction of talking with the 2013 Division VII High School Football Offensive Player of the Year. His name is A.J. Ouellette. He is a senior at Covington High School, and A.J., I guess first of all, if people wonder how you get to be the Division VII Offensive Player of the Year, here's some numbers. Over the last 2 years, 7,500 total yards, 79 touchdowns, and you helped lead your team to back-to-back-to-back perfect seasons at Covington. 3 years in a row, of course, to win the title in the Cross County Conference. That's good stuff, and we congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
It's great to have the opportunity to talk, and I'm going to preface our interview a little bit by saying that about 3.5 weeks ago we published an interview with AJ that has turned out to be one of the top, in 4 years, one of the top read articles ever published on Press Pros, for the number of people who got that, read it, sent the link. And in a nutshell, that article was about the fact that for everything you did and everything you've done at Covington, the numbers, the records, the championships, the distinction, the awards, here you said a month from the National Signing Day, yet without that phone call or that letter or that offer from a Division I school that you've been waiting for a scholarship. Has that been discouraging for you, or has it been disappointing, or how do you feel about that?
It's disappointing, knowing I put in all the work and just extra time to prepare myself for the season and hope for a scholarship just so I can get into school and get a career. But I put that on me because I don't think I went to enough camps and got my name out there. So it's a little disappointing.
The fact of the matter is there's a lot of ways that you can get into college football. It isn't necessarily the fact of the phone ring and saying, we got a scholarship for you. But I do want to ask you this. Covington is small school football. It's Division VII football. You play in a conference, in the Cross County Conference, that is not widely respected for the standard of competition here. Had you to do it again, any second thoughts in this day of open enrollment about playing at Covington when you could have played at Pickwood, you could have gone to Troy, you could have gone to a bigger school? If you had it to do again, would you have played at Covington?
Yeah, I'd play at Covington because it's the kids I've grown up with, and Coach Miller, best coach I've ever had. I think people diss on smaller schools, but I think I have to get my name out there. So
the fact of the matter is too, and we've heard this from a number of kids that play in the MAC Athletic Conference. Their game with you this year in the district finals was an epic back and forth game, and those kids were highly respectful of the Covington team that said if anybody disrespects them for the fact of the conference they play in, they hit us tougher, they played us harder than anybody we played all year. Very complimentary to the Covington Bucks and to A.J. Ouellette.
Yeah, that was, I'd say, best game that I've played. You know, we lost, but there was no trash talking, and I'd say that Covington gave them the biggest hits and stuff like that because how hard we work. Not all people in the Cross County Conference work that hard, so I think just because you're in that conference doesn't mean that you're down to that level.
Doesn't mean you can't put on a good show.
That's right.
A.J. Ouellette is our guest this week on First Person, and A.J., one of the things that we talked about in that article was a couple of years ago, maybe 3, I don't know, you guys adopted a policy, and this is a team policy, of no individual profiling. You didn't publish individual stats, your stats or anyone else. You didn't open yourselves up to individual interviews during the season. In other words, for the fact of team unity, you kept it all within the clubhouse. You kept everything within that locker room. As you look back now in this day of social media, and you know what Facebook's like and what Twitter's like and what it can mean for the fact of people getting to know who you are. Any regrets about maybe that decision of saying, no, we're not going to publicize what I'm doing here at Covington?
A little bit, because I've talked to some schools and they said, well, we haven't heard anything from them. And this was like at the end of last season, so the end of my junior year. So I think if we would have sent some stuff out early, that colleges would have seen me and I could have contacted them and they would know. So if we would have sent some stuff out, I know we have at the end of the season, so they're hearing about me now.
I want to broach this point too. High school football is about being fun. It's about playing, it's about being a kid, it's about being fun. And the fact that Covington is a school of maybe 100 to 125 boys in all 4 grades, and you play the Arcanums and Bethels and schools like that, just like you, I know it is fun to compete on Friday night in this league. Despite what anyone says about the cross-county conference, I want you to talk a little bit about having fun playing high school football, because anytime we've ever talked, you've always smiled ear to ear, you know, coming off the field on Friday night. You might not have talked about your stats or what you did that night, but I know you had fun.
Oh yeah, it's fun. Going out there with your friends, and you always have those comments out on the field, like when Champ Setters or Justin gets a big hit, he'll say something. Like we had, this was our song, that we saw it on a video once. Some guy was just talking about every time he hears a song, he performed better, and we just joke, and it's all about having fun. When you're having fun, you play better.
I know college coaches always look for the factor of preparation. You mentioned about how hard you worked, and I know you have. I mean, you do some remarkable things. You're 5'11", 190, 195 pounds wringing wet, and yet bench press 425 pounds. And I suppose if you wanted to show off, you got to add a few pounds to that. But a lot of it has to do with the way you're prepared, and you play for a guy that I respect a great deal. I've known Dave Miller for several years. He's unique because he not only talks the talk, he can get out there and literally run the offense for you. I want you to talk a little bit about what playing and how he has prepared you, not only just football-wise, but emotionally and mentally to go through this process.
Well, he prepares you greatly physically, because in the weight room he pushes you and doesn't make you stop. You're not allowed to stop in the weight room. And emotionally, he keeps your head focused. We had a sophomore quarterback, and he'd always get down on himself. But Coach Miller always made it fun whenever Jared was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
He'd step in and run the offense, and he'd always say that he's old and slow now, but he can still do it. He looked pretty good out there.
Looks pretty good out there. He may be old, he's not necessarily slow. There's not that many guys that are going to put their cardiac history on the line the way Dave Miller does, because he does get out there and run the offense. You said something also in that interview that I thought was unique, because, and I know you meant this when you said, if I don't get a scholarship offer, I am willing to walk on the school of my choice, onto the school of my choice, walk on the football field, and show them that I belong there, that I deserve a scholarship, and earn my way into that type of financial support. That's quite an attribute, because I don't think there's that many kids once you leave high school, that's a lot of work at the next level, that's willing to go and make that kind of commitment.
Yeah, I just enjoy playing football, so anywhere I can play, I'll walk on anywhere, and I gotta make sure it's a school that has my major, and I like everything about it, so I mean, I'll put in the work.
I think for schools that might see this on YouTube or someplace, tell us a little bit of what you'd like to do in school, major, things like that. What are your career goals after college?
I'm looking to go into exercise science and maybe some education, just so I can be a personal trainer one day and maybe a high school football coach.
Well, we wish you the best of doing that. And I certainly wish you all the luck in the world as far as getting to that next step, which is into a college campus of your choice. And I think Dave Miller said it best, the coach that ends up with you in college is going to wake up someday and thank his lucky stars that A.J. Ouellette decided to come to his school, given the fact that you haven't heard from a lot of others at this point. Wish you all the best, and thanks again for the time.
Thank you.
All right, A.J. Ouellette, our guest this week, again from Covington High School, and people here will tell you he is the real deal. If you get a chance, look at some of the films. They're on YouTube, and you get an idea for yourself. Again, that wraps up this week's edition of First Person, brought to you by the Ouellette Farm Drainage Company. 80 years of service to the community in farm, residential, and commercial. If they got water issues, they'll make them work for you. Coalfield Bar Horse in Fort Laramie. Until next time, thanks for your support of high school sports and athletes like A.J. Ouellette. For the sponsors, we'll see you again next time here on first person.
Number 12, Ouellette on the keeper.
That's the whole concept of the spread. You just I would 90%. Yeah, you would. You ever seen Motley Crue? Yeah!
Number 12, Ouellette runs it in for a Covington touchdown.